Hey guys, it's Jordan here, and welcome back to my channel. It's a Hardback Life, or welcome if you are new. Today we are going to be discussing my first wrap-up of the year. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the first wrap-up of the year. And I'm going to try and do wrap-ups again on a more consistent basis because I know I was falling apart on doing that last year. So I'm going to try and do them more efficiently and just more throughout the year. So I read a total of 6 books, and that's all I'm going to read because today is the January 31st, and I don't want to try and push out another book. Plus, the book that I am currently reading is a big book, and I'm going to put the audiobook on 2 times speed as soon as I am done with this video because I want to get it done today so that I can read the next book in the series. But before we get into books that I have read for the wrap-up, I had someone asked me a question about my channel name, and I just thought I'd share that with you real quick. So, it's a hardback life. This will also give you guys an insight as to things I like. So, it's a hardback life came from my love of books and also my love of theater, specifically musical theater. I love theater, period, because I grew up a lot of performing. In my household, if you don't know how to sing, dance, or act, or even just perform in any shape or form, whether it's in sports or whatever, it's weird. My brother is, he's a dancer, and he also does some rapping, and he's a DJ as well. My sister has dabbled in some performing arts, like she's done acting, and she also has done a lot of cheer and gymnastics, so she's an athlete as well. I grew up playing soccer and some tennis, and of course doing a lot of performances like shows and musicals and whatever have you, and also singing and other stuff. But yeah, It's a Hardback Life came from the fact that I prefer hardback over paperback, but I'm not going to turn down a paperback book unless it's within a series and it doesn't match the hardbacks I already have for it. But yeah, hardback came from that. And then I love the musical Annie. So the song from that is called It's a Hard Knock Life. So I just thought, hey, because I was thinking about my channel name, and I was thinking, what about It's a Hardback Life instead of, Hard Knocker? Because I was just going through different channel names, and that's how my channel name came about. It's a Hardback Life because my love for books and my love for theater. So, and I might read some more plays this year. I haven't done that in a while. I read one play last year for this channel, and I didn't like it very much. If you saw one of my wrap-ups last year, I read it in February. It's called, I don't even remember what the play was called. Because How I Learned to Drive. Okay, it was called How I Learned to Drive. Didn't like it. It was very weird. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get into the wrap-up. I also had a reading challenge. And this is a reading challenge created by Jake and Stacy from the Bookish Drummer channel. It's a um, reading challenge of 52 prompts, plus a bonus prompt if you DNF a book. And it's basically where you read one book a week for that challenge. And obviously, because there's 52 weeks in a year, so that's an easy 52 books you could read if you stick to the reading challenge. But I have not done a good job of that so far. I've only read 2 books within the reading challenge. Let me remind you what the prompts were for the reading challenge, at least for the first 4. And by the way, guys, you don't have to do the reading challenges in order. You can go in any order you want. You just and if you can't complete all the prompts before the end of the year, that's fine too. Just read as much as you can. This reading challenge was designed just to help you get rid of or get read your physical TBR. And yeah, I need serious help on that. I'm sure like a lot of us do, because sticking to reading the books on your shelf is kind of hard, because obviously there's a new book out there that you want to buy, and it becomes part of your TBR, and yeah. Enough of the rambling, let's get into the prompts. The first 4 2024 reading challenge prompts were: read a book that has the same vibes as a song you like, or it relates to the lyrics in some way. And the second one is: read a book that you have access to in more than one format. And that's basically saying, read a book that you have in physical, as in like hold on a second, you guys. One of my dogs is making a noise. Never mind, you guys. That wasn't one of my dogs. That was actually my dad. He and my aunt are back. The second one was: read a book that you have access to in more than one format. And that's obviously, let's say I have The Book of Night by Holly Black, which was one of my favorite books in 2021, I think is when it came out. I loved this book. If I had this book in physical form, and then also audiobook form, and then, well, that's already multiple formats. But physical form, audio form, you name it. Anyway, like ebook form, just have the book in multiple formats, and then that counts for the prompt. Third one was: read a book that that was an anticipated release at the time, but you did not get to it. For 2023 anticipated releases that I didn't get to. But I chose to read Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I didn't get to it, or at least I didn't finish it, so it's not going to be counted, at least this month. Because, yeah, I had other books that I prioritized, and shame on me. But at the same time, I'm going to get to the prompt hopefully next month and hopefully complete it. I might choose a different book, because there's a bunch of anticipated releases that I wanted to read in 2023 but just didn't get to. The fourth prompt was: read a book that has a reading goal you have set for yourself this year. And this was a reading goal I actually set for myself for last year and this year, because it is a huge series that I wanted to accomplish, and I think, well, I will accomplish it within the next couple months. And that reading goal was to finish The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. And I'm going to do that, ladies and gentlemen. I have two more books. Two more books. I'm excited to finally get this series over with. There's been quite a few ups, but there's been a lot of downs. And I will fill you in on that when I finish the series. But speaking of that, I did accomplish that goal. We'll get into that in a second when I reveal my books that I read. First book was The Gathering Storm. This is the 12th book in the Wheel of Time, and so far, one of my favorites in the series. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was fantastic. There was a lot of political maneuvering and strategic stuff that was going on. I cannot say much about this book because it's the 12th book in the series, and if y'all are planning to read The Wheel of Time, I'm not going to spoil that for you because I don't want to be that cruel. But this is the first book that Brandon Sanderson takes over because obviously Robert Jordan passed, and Robert Jordan's wife reached out to Brandon Sanderson after she read Mistborn because obviously it has some inspirational things from The Wheel of Time because Brandon Sanderson is a big fan of Robert Jordan and J.R.R. Tolkien and all those people. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and Brandon Sanderson clearly is doing this series justice. Oh yeah, and that book was 766 pages. And I started reading it last month, but couldn't finish it, so I carried it over into January. And yeah, finished it. The next book I read was Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is a romantasy / war fantasy, a young adult one specifically. It's the Letters of Enchantment duology, and it's about a girl named Iris Winnow who meets a boy named Kit, and they are rivals in a newspaper company. They're fighting for the role of columnist, and our main characters both are struggling with with a lot. One of them, Iris, her brother goes off to war, and because of that, she quits school and gets a job with a newspaper. And when I say the fantasy element comes in, it comes in via there's a war that these gods have started. And that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to spoil too much. But it's really good. Rebecca Ross has beautiful writing. I definitely recommend this. And then the second book I'm going to read next month, called Ruthless Vows. Oh, and this fulfills the prompt in the reading challenge. Read a book in more than one format. Because I read this, I did a little bit of immersion reading where I read this physically and via audiobook while I was on the road. Every time I was on my way to work. So, yeah. Fantastic book, and I can't wait to finish the series. The third book I read was also via audiobook, and that was New Spring. New Spring is the prequel to The Wheel of Time. It's set years before the events of The Wheel of Time happen. And that one focuses more on Moraine and Lan Mandragoran, and Swan Sanche also appears in it, among some other characters like Elida. But yeah, it's set way like years before the Wheel of Time, and I thought that one was okay. There's not a whole lot that happens because I mean, one, it's a 300-page book, like 344 pages. There is quite a bit that happens because it's Moraine and Swan when they are young, and Lan when he's young, and they're all just coming into their identities as like obviously Moraine and Swan are on the road to becoming Aes Sedai, and then Lan is like kind of this warrior still, and he's kind of a king. But that's all I'm gonna say about that. I gave that 3 stars because it was fine. Oh, I gave Divine Rivals 5 stars, and I gave Gathering Storm 5 stars. In case you're wondering. Okay. The next one that I read was Heartstopper Volume 5. This is a reread because I read it last month and I absolutely loved it. And I cannot wait for the 3rd season. I don't know if the 3rd season is going to incorporate anything from Volume 5 because it just came out and they're in the middle of filming the 3rd season. So I don't know. But this one focuses on... Well, if you don't know what Heartstopper is, it's about 2 boys named Charlie and Nick who meet each other in school. Nick is a year older than Charlie, and they become good friends, and then more develops from there. And we follow them as they are falling in love, and it's beautiful. And their friends are also a huge part of the story as well. And it's great. I love it. This is one of my favorite graphic novels I have ever read, at least the series. Because I don't read very many graphic novels. I think I've read a few, but not a whole lot. But yeah, I love this graphic novel series, and this is the 5th of a planned 6 graphic novel series. The final one, I don't know if it's coming out this year or next year. Hopefully next year, just so it could be drawn out a little bit. Anyway, yeah, this is Heartstopper. I love it. I also gave it 5 stars because I love this graphic novel series, like I said. Did I say that was the 3rd book I read? It's the 4th book I read. The 4th book. Excuse me. Alright. The 5th book I read should not be a surprise to you because I have talked a little bit about this author on my channel before. And here is the book. The 5th book I read this month was none other than House of Earth and Blood, the first book in the Crescent City trilogy. This is about a girl named Bryce Quinlan, who is half fae, half human. And in this book, at least the first few chapters, we're introduced to Bryce and her friends. And then a tragedy happens at the, within the first 4 or 5 chapters, where Bryce's friends are killed and she's left alone. And then the police ask her questions because obviously everything that went down happened in her apartment, and they want to know what she knows. And thus sets up this huge mystery of what happened. And like I said, there's Bryce is half fae, so this is a fantasy. It's an urban fantasy specifically because it's set in an urban setting, and there's mystery involved, and of course there's magic and magical creatures. But yeah, this is set in a place called Lunathian. And if you know Sarah J. Maas, you know that the Fae is what she mainly writes about. And so in her other stories, A Court of Thorns and Roses and Throne of Glass, A Court of Thorns and Roses, you should. But you should also, yeah, especially before you read this, because it's a different characters, different setting. But yeah, Bryce Quinlan ends up having to help solve this mystery. I can't say too much because this is the first book, and I don't want to spoil it for you. But this is the first in a trilogy, and I absolutely love this book. I gave it 5 stars. I wasn't too sure at the beginning because like the first 4 or 5 chapters are very info dumpy, and I was just like, Sarah J. Maas, what the heck? like I am not loving this. And then like I was still a little on the fence as the book went along because there's a whole lot of world building and a lot of info being thrown at you, but at the same time characters are slowly like coming together. And I think it clicked for me maybe 150 to 200 pages in of how the first 4 chapters made more sense to me. And I was like, oh. But I'm not saying that this book is terrible within those first 200 pages. It's just, it's very, I mean, it's like a medium pace. Like, you get fed information, and then, like, the story it keeps going. But, like, I think it's worth it. I love this book. And this is actually my favorite Sarah J. Maas book now, because just the risks that she took. First of all, you're doing an urban fantasy. That's something that's way out of her zone that she normally goes through. So, kudos to Sarah J. Maas for that. But yeah, this first book, I thought was brilliant and definitely some of her best work. Book I read for the month is a book I'm currently reading, and a book that I've said I was going to put on 2 times speed because I'm only like 350 pages into it, and it's an 800-page book. I plan on finishing the second book, which is House of Sky and Breath. So far, I am enjoying this book. It's definitely moving, and more characters are involved. And also, a couple new characters have been introduced. But I'm still enjoying it. I definitely think the first book was better in terms of character development, but I think this book is still really good. And by the way, I want to finish that book so badly so that I can get to the third and final book, House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. It just came out yesterday, January 30th. And I was kind of hoping that there was going to be a 4th book, because there's technically 4 different types of like groups. There's the House of Earth and Blood, House of Sky and Breath, which our character Bryce is in, House of Many Waters, and House of Flame and Shadow. And House of Many Waters, if she were to develop another book, would probably be the next book. So, we'll see what happens. But as far as I know, this is going to be a trilogy. But she said there's possibility of her expanding the books like into another series. We'll see what happens. Books that I read this month. Do me a favor in the comments below. Share with me the books that you read. And then maybe I read some of those. And maybe there are a few titles that you read that I would be interested in. Anyway, hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.